Welcome to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, where world-changing spiritual entrepreneurs come to deeply awaken the power within to bring forth their greatest purpose, to create massive awakened impact for millions of souls around the planet, while enjoying being in tune with all life and real wealth in all aspects of their lives. I'm your host, Daniel John Hanneman.
And hello, everybody. So glad to be with you here. Another amazing episode, Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Yes. All right. I'm here, GP Walsh, and I'm just very grateful to have him here. Yes, he's having fun. He's rocking it out over there. He's been banging it all right. So I love it. I love it. Full head bangs on. We're going to be getting into his incredible work that has birthed itself over the last 40 years, inner reconciliation. And we're going to get into that in a moment. And GP is known by so many leaders and so many people as being one of the most amazing spellbinding speakers and storytellers. So you definitely want to be tuning in today. We're going to be diving into it in just a moment. Do you want to meditate and make money? Let it be simple. Let it be easy. Let it be fun. Go to yoursacredpurpose.com and get your free Meditate, Make Money meditation today. All right. So let's go ahead and get into it. Hey, first of all, GP, it's just such an honor and pleasure to have you here. And I just dig your vibe. I love the humor. I love the wisdom you have. And I'm just looking forward to going deep today.
Oh, fantastic. I'm so glad to be here, Daniel. It's always just a pleasure.
Awesome. All right, so let me share with everybody a little bit about you. So this man's nicknamed the Irreverent Sage. Okay, GP is an author, speaker, master spiritual teacher, EFT expert, and so much more. Hey, slices, dices, who delivers delightful mix of insight, divine inspiration, and humor. In him, wisdom meets earthiness to help people with their ongoing spiritual growth and transformation and inner healing. Author of the Tao of Allowing and Tapping into the Buddha, Angels in the Basement, everything's everywhere, right? So the healing power of touch, and has shared countless workshops and meditations over the course of 40 years. GP is a recognized expert in leadership and innovation, creativity, as well as personal development and finding your life purpose. He is skilled in several healing arts and is a master of relieving stress and conflict. Oh yeah, we want that in the workplace and in one's personal life. A natural teacher, his background is as diverse as his interests. He's been a composer, done things with music. He's been a voiceover talent for radio, TV, even video games. He's had some fun doing different things there too. He has also been a business consultant of Fortune 500 companies and started several companies, one of which is run by his son. So one of his sons, GP's masterwork, of course, is Inner Reconciliation, the fruit of 40 plus years of spiritual research and experience as a teacher and a healer, which will be the focus of today's show. So wow. So let's talk about it. I'm sure you believe there's a lot of nonsense being shared in the world that, someone like yourself, I think that's kind of what your take would probably be. I mean, you're not going to be the norm, I'm guessing, in terms of your slant on. Have you gotten a little bit of that along the way, GP? I'm just wondering.
Well, yeah, I did earn the title, the Irreverent Sage. It's not that some of it is just downright nonsense, but we're still at the very beginning baby steps of the depth of spiritual development, of the development of our capacities, of the breaking down of the psychological and conceptual boundaries we've made for ourselves. We're just at the beginning of it. And like anything at the beginning, there's going to be fits and starts, and there's going to be the tinfoil hats, as well as just really deep spiritual teachings. The internet has contributed to that, both in the most positive and the most negative way, right? I mean, just everything is available, right? It doesn't matter what the subject is; you can get all sorts of different slants and points of view on it. But while there's just an enormous amount of information, there's not a great deal of teaching, The deepest spiritual teachings used to be taught in a monastery, right? And you dedicated your life, and it was 12 years before you even got to hear about it, right?
No, we're hoping it's 12 minutes or less, right?
Yeah, now it's like in 30 seconds, it's skip ad, right? So it really is just about deepening in it, and so that we understand that the information we get is just a beginning. This is just a taste of where it can go, and this has been something that has been in my life for 50 years now. And so, I A Course in Miracles hadn't been written when I started on this path. There was no self-help movement or consciousness movement. Nobody who had any idea who Deepak Chopra was. It was very, very early on. And so, yeah, I get a lot of students that I consider them to be spiritually disillusioned, right? They've exhausted a lot of different things that have kind of worked for a while or didn't work at all. And my job is it isn't to dismiss it all like it's all rubbish, right? But with the right understanding, with the right context, and primarily the right relationship with yourself, the technique, whatever technique or process or system you've learned, it'll work, right? When you're fully present and you're in a state of equanimity with yourself, everything works. When you're not, I don't care how good the process is, it won't work, because they're all dependent on you. It's not the other way around. It's the spirit that the healer brings to the party that is the real healing power. So yeah, I'm always nice. Guarding my words. I just don't. Very rarely do I just say that's nonsense. Especially because I don't want to discredit anybody, because everybody's at their level. I don't discredit some kid in 3rd grade, right? Because he can't do calculus, right? We all have to start somewhere. And I'm just so encouraged to see just the explosion of interest that has happened over the last 40 years. It's not that long in human history, right? It's just yesterday, right?
Yeah.
So it's pretty remarkable and pretty exciting to see just where it's come in such a very short time. And I've had the privilege of seeing it all. When I was a kid, we didn't have a TV, right? Let alone, talking to anybody in the world on TV, right?
Right. It's crazy. It is interesting, right? The way our heads are geared with all this information. It's like, all right, I watched 20 videos on that. I'm an expert. I know everything there is to know. So, I think that's where people are going these days, because we feel like, man, I just did a lot. I just learned so much, and we have no clue. I think a lot of times but then there's so much contrary information that people get confused too, though. So that also can happen too, where, oh my God, well, this one says that, this other one says this. Some people say it's all about law of attraction, it can make things happen. Others say, forget all that, just be in the presence, let it unfold. Yeah. And so what do we do now? Yes. Like, how do we make my life work?
It's daunting, right? Isn't it? It's daunting. Yeah. And what's lacking is a context in which to process it, to be able to sort through everything, to see what really matters and what doesn't, and give ourselves enough permission to play and experiment a bit with, right? Because there's something useful and valuable and functional in all of it, right? But the assumption is that one size fits all. Okay, so I'm going to do my vision board or take my gratitude walk, and then I'm going to get the new car, right?
Right.
And because somebody else did, right? Right? But that doesn't mean it's going to work for you, right? It isn't one size fits all. Every individual is such a unique energy signature, that there isn't one thing that will work for you, which is why my mantra is always, who are you? Let's get to know you. Let's reconnect you up with you. And that becomes the context by which you can sort through just the mind-numbing quantity of information there is for us. We're just overwhelmed with information, but we don't know how to process it. We just don't know what to do with it.
It reminds me of, you probably heard all these different things, but like human design, things like this, right? So I've studied up on my human design. I've got all that information. And the nice part about things like that is it does show you something about yourself where, like, hey, this is giving an orientation to who you are, which we don't get. We don't get that in our basic education. It's like basic orientation. Like you don't expect to be able to do what some other people do. You've got other gifts. You've got other areas to focus on. Yes. And so I think you're exactly right. And like one of my mentors, he always says, like, hey, here's some things that work for me. They may not work for you, but take some notes and see what resonates.
That's a real teacher. That's a real teacher. Yeah. A real teacher isn't giving you stuff. He's pointing you in a direction and say, here, walk there and tell me what happens.
Yeah.
And you can point out some pitfalls, and I know where the potholes are, so you can avoid that. But ultimately, it's it's like the myths of the guy going into the cave or down to the bottom of the ocean or into the whale's belly or something like that. Those all represent our own inner world, that we have to go there alone. Because only you are going to be able to know you. Once you do, you come back, and that's where wisdom comes from. That's where that capacity to sort through it. And it also, you realize that you can't do it for anybody else. You're more than happy to point the direction, right? And help them avoid mistakes. But this is kind of the way we've all been trained, isn't this idea that there's some kind of process or attitude or something that's going to make the difference, right? And all I have to do is learn these 7 steps or buy this thing, and then everything is going to be okay. That's never true, right? It's never true, right? The only solution is to know yourself. Because really, how do you even trust what you want if you don't know who you are?
Yeah, good point.
And how many times have you really, really wanted something, gotten it, and next week you're selling it on eBay? It's like, oh, geez, what was I thinking, right? I mean, it's just like,
right, exactly. That's the thing. The people when they study, the people that use the vision boards and they do all this stuff, when you really look at it, a lot of times, I'm not saying all cases, but a lot of times you find people who, I got that. I kept visualizing win the lotto or whatever it is, and then it happened, and it was so great. I totally use LOA to get it, and then like I lost all my money, and then my life got worse than ever. And
right,
that's not it, so to speak. Maybe it's leading you to where you need to be focused, but that's not it. It's not getting the thing. That's how I look at it anyway. It's not about getting the thing, right? I mean, everybody's wanting to get these things, but it really has very little to do with getting the thing, in my opinion. But I don't know what your take is on that. You do consultations for big organizations and all kinds of stuff, so I'm curious your take on it.
Yeah, it isn't about getting the thing. It isn't about getting the thing. What we don't see, what we want to do is get the thing, but we don't want to change. Right?
Just give me the thing, then I'll change.
Right? But what happens if you and the thing, if you're not really ready for that thing, right? You're just going to mess it. I mean, it's proverbial. It's 95% of the people who win the lottery have lost it all within 2 years because they're not ready for that influx of energy. And it doesn't matter how good the thing is that you want. It is going to bring about change, sometimes tumultuous change. You want the job promotion. Well, guess what? The guys you used to go out to beer with, who were your peers, are now your employees. And they may not want to go out with you anymore. Or the, all of a sudden, you're on a new prestige place, and you're going to move to a house because you want a bigger house, and now the kids are going to different schools, and all the people around you, people you've known for 5-10 years, are everything has, you can't do one thing without affecting something else. This is the dynamic of life. You cannot avoid it. There's no such thing as an isolated event. There's a unity between everything. So everything that you do impacts everything else that you do. So it's a very limited, linear kind of thinking, and thinks this thing is going to come in and change my life. This coming in will have an effect on your life, but it may not be what you want.
Right. Exactly. It happens all the time with people in business. They get to where they thought they wanted to get. Like, holy shit, now what do I do?
Yeah, or I hate it. I hate this life.
Exactly.
They're success.
To the money. They're addicted to, I need to grow. I need to keep going. I need to be a success. I'm still dealing with my daddy wounds or whatever, right? So they're still dealing with all these things. But if I do more of it, then maybe it'll work, even though they know deep down inside it won't, but they try anyway.
Well, they don't know what else to do, right? And we live in a culture where it keeps emphasizing that. Well, you just have to do more. You just have to get more. You just have to have more. Yeah. Oh, you made $1 million. You need to make 10 million. You made 10 million. You got to make 50 million. I mean, it is absolutely Jack Canfield, who's a friend of mine, told me the story about a guy he knew. He owned a couple of Major League Football teams. He was talking about wealth, and the guy was talking about, he still wasn't satisfied, right? He said he had this much and he wanted that much. He had all the nice cars, then he had the houses. That was now the boats. And I had more things. Football team. I'll own a football team, or some sports. They have 2 sports teams, right? So Jack says to him, I'm going to go over to Africa and deliver wheelchairs. Do you want to come with me? And he said, okay, we got to take my private jet. He says, so he says, oh, Jack said, okay, we'll take your private jet. So they load a bunch of wheelchairs, and it was part of this organization that brings donated wheelchairs over to kids in Africa who don't have access to. And so this guy, who will remain nameless, he and Jack are passing out wheelchairs. And this one kid gets to the wheelchair with this big grin on his face, and he starts staring at him. He's just like intensely staring at him. And he's getting like a little uncomfortable. And so he asked the translator, he says, what's he doing? The translator asks him. The translator says, he's trying to remember your face so he can thank you again in heaven. The guy just broke down in tears. I almost break down in tears when I repeat it. Since then, the last count, it was like he has personally delivered 15,000 wheelchairs to them, and has begun to discover what true service and what true success is. And it's just such a great illustration that it's just kind of a cultural sickness we've got into, that it's all about more, right? Rather than about you. Right? And that's the real problem. We get lost in that. And you said before, the daddy issues, that's what it is. Success is a compensation for the fact that you've become disconnected from yourself. And no compensation in the world is going to be able to substitute for simply knowing yourself as you really are. Reconnecting to all the stuff that was there before all the layers of conditioning and junk and stuff got laid on top of you, before you were forced into being somebody you didn't really want to be, and completely forgot who you are. And that to me is the mission, right? And it's an uphill battle because our entire culture is exactly the opposite. Our whole system depends upon people not being satisfied, because unsatisfied people buy a lot of stuff.
I need more stuff.
I need more stuff. And then we get you store it places to store the stuff that we're not even going to look at because we need more of it. There's like 15 billion square feet of you store places now.
Good business. Good business.
It's a good business, yeah.
To make money anyway.
Yeah, to make money. Yeah.
I have a friend that owns one of those units. She says, coaching's great, but my unit's storage unit thing's doing really good too. So yeah, I mean, it creates that kind of opportunity, but it's very interesting. So this inner reconciliation process obviously is about beginning to understand who are you is what I'm hearing in part, right? That's a foundation. So tell us more. It took me a while to lead you here, but to get to this question. So what is the inner reconciliation process then? I know we're already talking about it, but let's talk about it a little more precisely now.
Sure. It's kind of a system or a process or an approach to inner work and spiritual work that just kind of developed for me organically over the last 50 years, right? Through my own spiritual experiences, my own spiritual practices and research experiences in psychology and all sorts of different things that I ventured into in an attempt really to understand the nature of suffering and how we got to it, how we got so far off. And the reconciliation is really a reconnection with your own soul. And I use the term reconciliation because for the most part, and again, I'm going to put on my Irreverent Sage hat because this is where I get a lot of flack, is that self-help doesn't work. For the most part, it doesn't work, or works temporarily, then stops working, and then people redouble their efforts or try something else, and it becomes the self-help treadmill. The reason it doesn't work is there's an underlying assumption, and the underlying assumption is there's something wrong with you and you need to be fixed. Right? And it doesn't matter, as long as that assumption is there, it doesn't matter what you do, it's always going to be a Band-Aid, right? How do you get to that assumption? Are you really broken? Now, almost everybody, yes, I struggle with myself. I self-sabotage. I got voices in my head. I try to do something and I can't do it. So yeah, there's something wrong with me. But what if there isn't? Now, the fact is there isn't. What actually happened is the real you, think of it this way, think of you as a child, and we all were children at one point, totally innocent. Everything we did was natural, authentic, unpretentious, right? We'd walk into a room naked and sing and think nothing of it, right? Completely unself-conscious, right? So everything you did was 100% you, 100%, just pure original innocence. At some point as you were growing up, sometimes earlier, sometimes later, sometimes severely, sometimes not so severely, we all run into the rules and restrictions and limits and the definitions of the tribe, your parents, right? The parents, schools, churches, religion, all of it, the culture at large. And there's this conflict between the needs of the tribe, sorry, like use the word, and the needs of me as an individual. Now, it's a very deep and perfectly natural thing because obviously human beings aren't like a horse. A horse is born in the afternoon, he's running around eating, right? In the afternoon, a child is born, they're still laying there and will for another couple of years, right? I mean, it takes us forever to be at the point where we're actually self-sufficient, which means the bonding with our caregivers is an absolute necessity. And so when it comes down to me expressing my natural exuberance, my natural aliveness, and the tribe's need to keep me safe, my authenticity goes out the window. I have to put it to the side. I have to, or I don't survive. And this is the essential conflict between safety and freedom, between survival and my own individuality, between bonding and authenticity, that forms I call it the existential crisis. It is the beginning of the disconnection from your soul. What do you do under the circumstance when you have no choice but to be who and what you are? But to be who and what you are creates danger for you.
Right.
I mean, it's a total double bind. Right? What can you do? Well, the whole energy system, the whole nervous system. Remember, this is going on before you're thinking, even before you're talking, right? So this is completely spontaneously happening. Well, the whole energy system, the nervous system, has to keep your natural behavior from coming out and create other behaviors that fit what the tribe wants to see, and therefore you get your needs met. And so this is where the real you gets sent to the basement. And off you go. Layers of behavior get put on top of it in order to keep it out of sight. And it stays out of sight because it's reinforced. You get your needs met. You are safe. You are taken care of. You get all the things that you're supposed to get. So the whole nervous system is reinforced. This is the right way to do it. But unbeknownst to you, an entire persona, an entire sense of identity has emerged based on all these behaviors that aren't you. This is what we call the ego, the sense of self, the separate self. Now, the path that it doesn't matter how much self-help you do on that guy. It's not you. It doesn't matter how you're giving medicine to a ghost.
This identity that is not you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And it's like this perfectly functioning ghost. And this is why we get
invincible ghost. Right.
we get into adulthood. We try to do things. We can't do it. We feel limited. We feel constricted. It's like, what's missing? Something's off, right? I always use the example of the whale in the swimming pool, right? Take a critter that's used to traveling thousands of miles in a year, just, most of the earth is its home and its playground, and you throw it in a swimming pool and you expect it to be happy. Right. It's like, it can't articulate it the way we can, but it knows something's off, and so do we. And of course, that's when we follow what the conditioning has said. Well, you need to have more money or a better relationship or this kind of experience, or head off to Peru or go to Wall Street, or a million and one things to try to correct that. But the real problem is you can't correct what isn't you. You have to rediscover this. You have to let the guys out of the basement. That's why I call them angels in the basement. You have to let them out. Right. Mm-hmm. But this is the hard part, because the nervous system is absolutely convinced that if you do, you're going to get slammed. You're going to be killed. You're going to die. And so this is the essential the essential territory that has to be reclaimed. And what I found was that in all the attempts I did at self-help and self-repair, including meditation and spiritual practices and deprivation, I lived like a monk for a while, right? And none of it worked. None of it worked. But then I discovered this completely different approach, where I began to simply listen to it. Eventually, I realized that all I was doing, I was fighting the energy that was trying to keep me safe. And because it was way better at doing its job than I was at doing mine, it was always going to win that argument, right? It always had the capacity to shut me down.
Right.
But what if I made friends with it? What if I reconciled with it? Mm-hmm. And I discovered that in that process, simply turning inward without an agenda, without trying to fix yourself, right? But to just listen. Because remember, the attempt in self-help and personal development to fix you, right, is exactly the same motivation the tribe had it's what made the whole thing happen in the first place, right? There was the absence of love. There was the absence of safety. There was the absence of acceptance of you as you are. That creates the existential crisis. So what's the solution? Duh. You create the environment where it's safe to be you. And that means dropping all of the techniques for trying to fix yourself and just a simple turning inside and simply allowing yourself to feel what you feel when you feel it. I call it the yoga of allowing. And that starts by just letting yourself feel whatever you're feeling. And you'll notice the habit of judging and wanting to fix it and change it. You go, okay, that's there, but can I just be present with it? And you'll find that it's easier than it sounds. And you're amazed at the immediate transformation that takes place. And I can say that it's immediate because, remember, the nervous system is a totally adaptive mechanism. It adapted to that environment to keep you safe. If you become a safe environment, it's going to adapt to it. That's what it does. You know, take the whale out of the pool and put it into a lake, it will adapt to the lake. Take it out of the lake, put it in an ocean, it'll adapt to the ocean. That's what it will do. And so the same thing applies here. At which point you can gently guide the whole safety mechanism to keep you safe differently, in a way that not only keeps you safe, but also allows for freedom, for access to you, to take you out of the constant defensive posture that we're in and into self-expression. Because it's the same energy, right? You know, if you feel like your life is constricted, it's because all your energy is going into defending you. And the moment those defenses come down, that energy immediately just jumps to the other side. You know, when the water comes out of the mountain, it doesn't need a GPS to find the ocean. It knows where to go, right? And the same thing is true of you. When it no longer has to defend you, it immediately steps into its primary purpose, which is self-expression. That's what we're here for. Mm-hmm. So I can go on about this all day.
It's just it's getting slightly better, I think, but like, yeah, there's so little emphasis on more and more people are starting, slowly there's more and more people saying, hey, maybe there isn't anything wrong with you, right? So I mean, like, just even that one premise that you brought out, maybe there isn't anything wrong with you. Ever consider that? Like, for a long time, I don't know more, but I would call myself the blockbuster, right? I'm gonna bust those blocks. But I always looked at it as a joke because I know that there really aren't any blocks, not really,
yes.
They're not blocks, So, but yeah, that's kind of my joke. Like, yeah, we're gonna bust those blocks. Just let all that crap go. Like, okay, I mean, is what it comes down to, sort of, and it's about, when I mean, I don't know, I just what comes up to share is like when I work with people, it's about on this level, it's like it's working with, really trusting who you are and trusting, again, like getting it. Well, the head is the defense back. Where it shows up for people is in the head typically, right? So that's what the head is like. Come on, let's do that. Come on, no, you're stupid. And then down below in the body keeps whispering to you, hey, why don't we do this? Hey, why don't you just chill out? Hey, whatever. Like that's how I experience it anyway. It's like, oh, hey, this is happening. I don't know if that's happening. I don't know if we got anything going on. Let's make something happen. Like, well, I don't know. You're kind of screwing it all up now. We want to have a party, and you're like, you want to do some other crazy thing. Geez. So you're right. I mean, the mind can always, can always come back to its programming and all its limits and say, no, we don't trust that magic and things will just happen. Everything's just going to be okay, or even amazing or whatever. I can't trust I'm whole. Come on. I've never been told that I'm whole. That doesn't make any sense. There must be something to fix, right? Must be something.
Well, that's the base. That's the basis of the mind. That's the basic of the egoic mind. It lives on conflict. That's Eckhart Tolle, the point he was making when he referred to as the pain body. It feeds on conflict, right? The mind is a fixer. What if there's nothing to fix? Well, the mind will get very bored, right? It'll break something, right? Say, well, look, there's something to fix. And that's the way it works. But this works on a very,
That's
very,
true.
very.
Just a break. You need to fix it. Yeah, you're right. It's like,
Because I got to fix. If
right.
I'm a fixer, nothing's broken. Well, let's break it. I mean, that's what it does. I mean, think about it. I mean, people who are listening right now, what if there's absolutely nothing wrong with you? Notice how difficult it is for you even to approach that idea, right? Because the whole foundation of the way we've been taught to think is that that there is something that wrong that needs to be fixed. And because we have rehearsed that, practiced that so often, it has just infected the entire structure of our conceptual framework, our life, our institutions, everything.
So let's get concrete though. So if we get concrete, someone says, okay, great. There is no problems to fix, but I've got health problems. I got relationship issues. I got money problems. I'm bankrupt. My business is going down, whatever.
Yep.
I have problems with my employees, whatever. So they're saying they have a real problem. And people have told me I've created these problems. So I need to self-improve so those things will change, and must be in my consciousness. So I need to change it. So this is where the conversations go. So how do you approach that? Someone says, hey, I have this specific problem. It's a real problem I'm having. I'm really challenged by this thing. Well, how do you approach that with people? You don't just say, hey, just be yourself, you're gonna be fine. Exactly, right? So how do you help them with that?
You can't be flippant or cruel about it. And you can't tell people more than they're ready to hear, right? As the general principle, there really is nothing wrong with you. But we have been trained to think and feel as if there is for so long that this is simply the way we are. It's the way we operate in the world. I get up in the morning till the time I go to bed at night. I'm in the process of fixing and improving and trying to do these things. And that doesn't discount the fact that we have real issues that come up in our lives. Our bodies do get sick. We suddenly find ourselves, something goes wrong and my business crashes. I've had that happen to me, right? Completely unexpected, right? Like a fire in Northern California, and suddenly everything's wiped out, right? We can't plan on those kinds of things. So, the first step is just a deep compassion, an acknowledgement, starting out with that what's happening for you and with you is genuinely happening. It's really there. And this isn't your fault. Right? That's one of the real dark sides of the whole law of attraction thing, is it made people afraid of their own thinking. And everything that went wrong, it's now my fault. So it heaps blame. I mean, it's original sin in the back door, right? I mean, it's the same story over and over and over again. You're not the cause of these things. Right? This is simply the way you have been trained to be. We've been trained into being fearful. We've been trained into being resisted. We've been trained to be into self-derogatory. And anything you can be trained into, you can be trained out of. But that's the key. How do we do that? Well, the first thing I do with people, and the reason I use a couple of energy techniques, most predominantly tapping, EFT, because for me, using a technique like tapping conveys safety to the nervous system. The number one thing is your whole nervous system has to come to feel safe. Right? When we're dealing with all these things in the world that are going on in our life, and we don't have an immediate solution, it creates an enormous amount of stress and inner tension. Right? Because on one hand, you've got say the mind is saying we need a solution. We go in, there's no solution. What do you mean there's no solution? And it's just this spiral that takes place, right? And then we're looking everywhere. We're looking everywhere, but notice we're always looking outside for a solution out there. Now, the law of attraction, metaphysics, and that sort of thing. Now we start looking inside. We're doing a witch hunt on our own thoughts. Right. Okay, that's what, oh, I got to get rid of that. I can't think that thought. I can't think that thought, which is like intensely causes even more stress. Because the more, the more you try to not think about something, what is it you think about?
Think about that pink elephant, right? That kind of thing.
That's right. Don't think about a hippopotamus in a tutu. Don't do it. No, don't do it. So the first thing is there's a reconciliation with that, right? Okay, so the thoughts are there. So what? Okay, let them be there, right? But my mind is going crazy. Okay, let it go crazy. Now what? Oh. The moment you stop fighting with it, something new emerges, right? Because remember, the absence of safety is the conflict. If you drop out of the conflict, there's no conflict. There's just stuff happening. And now suddenly you come into this place, and I call it the peacemaker. It's this inner space where you can watch it all happen. It's called in spiritual and meditative practice, it's the place of the witness, right? The enlightened witness, where you're simply watching it happen without engaging. That's the whole purpose of meditation, by the way, to get you to the point where you can let this stuff happen without engaging. Now, that's not at all the same as like law of attraction, which wants to control the thoughts and change them into different thoughts, which almost nobody can do it. And nobody can do it all the time. Nobody can do it all the time. But what happens if I simply lose interest in the thoughts? Suddenly, yeah, okay, they're going on, right? But so what? Do I have to believe them? Do I have to participate in them? Can I just sit back here and watch them? Now, at first, that's hard because we have all been trained to immediately jump on those thoughts, especially now since most of us are all well-schooled in personal development, self-help, right? We've all trained ourselves to jump on those things and take control and take action and that sort of thing. So it can take a minute to kind of try to take a different posture. But suddenly, if you're in this place where you can let the thoughts go, you can let the feelings go, and you can let the sensations go, and you're no longer trying to intervene to make things go a certain way, you're in this place of the completely impartial viewer. You're the ultimate negotiator now, right? You're the ultimate mediator for a peace settlement, right? Because you have no vested interest in the outcome. Now, this may sound out there, but it's not. It's not hard to do, right? Just a little bit of guidance. Usually, somebody required at first to kind of help you stay there long enough to feel the effects of it. Kind of like, when you were learning how to ride a bike and Dad was running behind you, holding you, right? Right. Until finally Dad would let go, and you think Dad's still, Dad, where's Dad, right? But suddenly. But suddenly, the whole body is learning how to maintain this posture of equanimity. And this is the place in which all of those conflicting energies, yeah, things do need to happen. There's all sorts of thoughts going on. There's feelings, there's fears, there's anxiety, there's desires, right? There's a host of sensations. But I get to this place where suddenly the natural energy of our whole system begins to find its own equanimity, its own equilibrium. And I find I don't have to do it. I don't have to make it happen. It is natural. Matter of fact, the more I try to make it happen, the more I muck up the works.
Exactly.
And it's the most peaceful place to be. And of course, there is where you find out who you are. Because now attention has come away from all the stuff happening out there, and it begins to settle in here. And as it settles in here, and you are now the peacemaker, you're not taking sides, you're not trying to force your will in some way. What you've created is the perfect internal environment of safety. And in the internal environment of safety, that the door of that basement opens up. And all the things that you were resisting before, all the parts of you that got sent to the basement start to emerge. And at first, they may seem to be even a bit demonic, You know, imagine you're trapped in the basement for 30 years, right? Right. And, you know, somebody finally opens the door, you're going to be pissed off. you're going to come out, right? You know, ready to be sent back to the basement again. But if the environment is maintained, the inner environment of safety is maintained, eventually all of that fades away, all that energy begins to take its natural innocent form. Because I mean, it's the child, it's purely innocent. You know, it was made to have to dispossess these parts of it. So they had to become bad, sinful,
Right.
awful, right? In fact, they're not.
Right, exactly. That you know, that's one of my things. I always said, if it's only what I call judgment, people have different interpretations of that word, but it's only judgment that we suffer from. We've made something wrong, right?
Yes.
That's wrong, so to speak.
Right.
And people say, well, some things are wrong. What about murder and all this? All right.
So have you murdered anybody lately? You know, I
Right.
mean, well, then it's not really relevant to you. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the mind. That's another mind trick to go off to someplace theoretical so you don't have to confront the real issue right in front of you. It's a trick.
Right. We've got some good stuff here for you to distract you from the truth.
That's right.
And all kinds of scenarios. What about this? What about that one? I got them all day. I can keep them coming forever.
Yes, it's true. There's probably not a single video I put out there that there isn't somebody who does something like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're always going to have some rebuttal, right? Like, you're crazy, in the real world, blah, blah. And that's because they haven't experienced it. You know, they haven't given it a chance. They haven't, you know, gone into it. You know, I've given it enough a chance to know you're right. You know, what you're saying is accurate. It's true. When we can, because I was talking about these things. I mean, I don't think I've shared this story here on this show. Like something so simple, like when I'm just in my natural self, I go to restaurants and I just always get what I want. I just get exactly what I want. I don't have to order it. I don't have to, not every single time, but like a lot of times this happens. I'm like, hey, I'd love an extra fruit plate with my dinner. They just come and bring it to me. I mean, it's not a part of the meal. They just do it, you know, like it happens all the time. So it's like, you're right. And this is where I've come to learn and understand, like when I let things become like when it's totally effortless, when there's no effort, that's when I'm being myself. That's when I'm being myself. So
correct. Well, what could require less effort than being what you actually are?
Right.
What could be easier? It takes an
never
enormous amount of effort.
Horrible idea. That'll never work. That'll never get your needs met. Right? Like
Yes.
From the time
Yes.
we came, like, you know, like even again, before we were born, right? You got all the prenatal energy and everything, you know, and all those things we pick up on as well. And so it has this experience and so I guess what people might come to, myself, my own mind sort of wonders. I can come up with my own answer, but I wonder what your answer is. Like, so what the hell is the point of the mind and the egoic mind or whatever? What's the point? Why do we ever have any ego, mind, and everything? Why has this been done to us? We've been done wrong. Like,
Yeah. Right. Well, it's when you see it for what it actually is, it's the most miraculous thing there is, right? Mm-hmm. But when it is being governed by the false sense of you, right, then it's going to be all whack. All that creative energy, the creative juices that is the mind, will be serving interests other than you. So it is, the nervous system isn't at fault. That's why I say you're not broken. Nothing. This is the way it was meant to function, right? The thing is that while we are young, we are innocent, we are not yet conscious. And therefore, we identify with the body, mind, we identify with form, we identify with our tribe, we create a sense of self that is very constrained. It's defined by those things. And once that sense of self is created, and you don't actually even create it, it's created by life, it's created by the nervous system itself. But once it is created, it becomes the operating principle upon which everything else operates. So it's like the operating system. So all the thoughts revolve around it. And so as we grow, and the natural desire for growth and evolution happens, and consciousness begins to be able to see this, we see the enormous conflict between my growing vision and the limitations of this sense of self. But the only problem is the difference between the spiritual path and another path is that the spiritual path says, look, the problem is the self, the sense of self. It's not this stuff here. The problem, the root of the problem is who you think you are, is not you. And so when you begin to shift that, all of this stuff that has been organizing itself around the false sense of you begins to organize around the true you. And now suddenly all that creative power and that energy and that enthusiasm and that passion for life begins to serve a completely different purpose, the real you. And so now life, and all of life, the wholeness of your life and the reality of your being are reconciled, they're harmony. Now life expresses you as you really are, not as who you thought you were. And then that sense of conflict just disappears. It's like, oh, I see. The mind wasn't a problem. Even the ego isn't a problem, right? Remember, the ego isn't a thing, right? People, we tend to think it's like, this thing, this hairy little thing hiding in the bushes is going to jump out and get you, right? It's a thought. That's all it is. It's a concept, right? On this incredibly complex functioning that we call the body mind. And that incredibly complex functioning needs to have a center. And when we're too young to be that center, we're not conscious enough, the nervous system creates one. That's the false sense of self. That's the ego, right? As we become conscious, we can take that ego out of the center and put the real you in the center. And now everything starts serving you. Now everything becomes harmonious. And it always starts with insight, right? An expanding of the consciousness. It then moves from being thought into being felt. It begins to kind of dissolve the energetic patterns that are in the emotional system. And eventually it just goes all the way through that it is your life. This is the life. This is what is meant by the word sage. It's someone whose life is in complete harmony with the reality of who they are. It's God and man, as it says, the Sufis say, wherever the eye lands, it sees the face of God. And that's what's meant. There's no false self there anymore. It's the pure beauty and perfection of your being, manifested, not just believed, not just on the perimeter. It's actually permeated the entire system.
Awesome. That's so great. And then that's what you help people to do through first this orienting that we're doing now, and then you help people with different tools and techniques and all these sorts of things. Can you tell people a little bit about that?
Well, sure. Inner reconciliation, I will use, there's an inner dialogue. And they use always starts with the yoga of allowing. Learning how to allow yourself to feel what you're feeling when you're feeling it, and notice that the judgments will be there. That first step of allowing establishes a relationship. So you're no longer completely entwined with thinking, with the judgments and all that. You see that that's part of it. It's just part of the programming. And it is the programming, it's not you. And that's the first big realization. Oh my God, this thinking is programming, it's not me. It can't be me, I'm looking at it. Oh, I get it. And the same thing for the feelings. And now you get to the point where you can let these things be there without having to kind of aggressively go after and change them. Now, at that point, you can then begin to inquire. believe me, sometimes just allowing creates enough of an inner space of safety that problems vanish. Because it was the absence of safety that caused them in the first place. So when the presence of safety is felt, the nervous system adapts to it. There are some places that are more intransient. They're holding on. They're not sure the war's over, right? They're not so trusting. In which case, there's a process of dialogue that I can take them through, little by little, to actually query the nervous system. And it may even sound kind of strange, but you're basically like talking to the dispossessed parts of you,
Right.
as archetypes. So the allowing is really meditation in its purest form, where it's completely passive. You're not trying to do anything. You're not trying to accomplish anything. There's no agenda. It is pure presence. You're just here and now, and you're noticing all the different thought patterns, and then all the emotional patterns, and then you are beginning a conversation with these essential energies: the energy of desire, the energy of safety, the energy of self, the ego, which I call the storyteller mind. Right? And then I will also use, in some cases, I'll use EFT to help the nervous system actually accept the environment of safety, because that's what it's all about. That's all I'm doing, right? As elaborate as it sounds, all I'm doing is bringing to a place where you finally become safe for yourself, because most of us have been put into a war with ourselves. Self-help is a self-war. This isn't self-help, it's self-discovery. And so it's the other term for it, unconditional love. Right? That's it. And unconditional love is not this refined little fine china that's up on the shelf that comes down on holidays and kids can't touch, right? It's gritty, it's earthy. It's, can you accept this right now as it is? If you can't, that's unconditional love. And that is the space in which healing takes place. So I have all sorts of different ways I talk about manifestation. I talk about the powers of creation. I will talk about, do a whole series on the chakras as archetypes to represent the safety, the ego, the desires, vision, creator, the sage. I've turned them into archetypal figures where you could have an inner dialogue, which, by the way, as archetypes, you can use that in a business to talk to business people who don't want to hear about the chakras and, woohoo stuff, right? Because that's what they represent. They're not the spinning vortexes of light. They represent aspects of consciousness. And so using is that you can reconcile with the self. As you reconcile with yourself, you're going to reconcile with others. As your judgments drop off here, they drop off there, right? Everything begins to flow outward. So that's the process. So it starts with allowing, and actually just starts with simple body awareness, just feeling your body, because so many people are so in their heads. So I don't feel anything. So, okay, do you feel that? Yeah, I feel that. Good. Right. Let's start there, right? Just anything to get them into their body. And of course, we're not in our bodies because of those early traumas. We're afraid to go there, right? So that's also part of the natural defense mechanism. So we have to make it safe to feel the body. So it's very gentle, very progressive, very gradual. Some people can go very quickly through them. Others just little by little. The speed doesn't matter. And then it just expands in all sorts of different directions, taking on the deeper stuff like karmic vows and all sorts of things that have been around for thousands of years, and not just, generational issues and stuff that can seem more complex. All of it just begins to unfold in the midst of this, because you're cooperating now with the most intelligent thing in the universe, the human mechanism. And then eventually I'll teach people how to coach and to teach this way. And and it's not a system in the sense that I want people to do this. It's a context. I've got people from Wall Street. I've got coaches and life coaches. I've got fitness coaches. I've got therapists and PhDs. I've got scientists who've all taken this and integrated it into their world. because I don't want to start a system. Good God, the world doesn't need another system.
It's a five-part system that we can teach the whole world. It saves us all.
Yes, that's right. No. I don't want. I do that. I do, and I don't want students. I want to create teachers. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
awesome.
the idea is to
Beautiful.
liberate. Yeah.
Awesome. So I'd love for you to share about you've got actually a whole free event, a retreat actually online. I think it is right
Yes.
coming up. You want to tell them about
Yes.
that? Share the
Oh,
link.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
It's called Awaken Awareness, Transform Gently, which is what we've been talking about here. And I'm putting it on with two other gentlemen, Stephen Schuringer, it's a hard name to pronounce, or Kevin Schuringer and Stephen Altair. We both have the same basic perspective. We come at it from different ways. Kevin is a master of Qigong and those kinds of body energy. Stephen does various kinds of meditations and bringing people into that pure awareness, and then myself with meditation and inner reconciliation. So we've decided to kind of do something together to see how it works, right? See the effect it would have. And Lisa Berry, who is the producer of my radio show, is organizing the whole thing, and she's going to be the anchor for it. It'll be interactive. It'll be on Zoom. We'll each do a little bit, 20, 25 minutes. Then we'll have a period of time for open engagement and question and answer. But the whole idea is, the reason the three of us liked each other, it was always the same. It was awaken awareness and transform gently, right? I don't like the massive action of type A approach. Come on, we're gonna make change, right? The drill sergeant thing. No, it's gentle. Transformation is completely gentle. It just happens, right? And once you've been earmarked by the universe for transformation, you might as well not fight it because it's going to happen whether you like it or not.
All right, so awesome. So if people want to join that or check it out, at least just go ahead and go to GP Walsh with it, which is WALSH.com. So gpwalsh.com /awareness. Or no, I'm sorry.
Awaken. Yeah.
Okay.
Awaken.
But
yeah.
the retreat is called Awaken Awareness, but it's Awaken. So
yes.
gpwalsh.com /awaken. And then we have one other, so that's coming up online. It looks like right around the corner coming up here on July.
Yeah, a week from Saturday. Yeah, July 24th.
Yeah, so jump on that. And is that something that you might be repeating in the future if people are listening to this at a later date?
Oh, I'm the replay will certainly be available, even if they can't make it live.
Okay.
Because all three of us have students all over the world. I mean, in fact, Stephen is located in Japan, right? So yeah, and I suspect we'll do it again in the future.
Yeah.
Another live one. Yeah.
Okay, great. And then you also have, I was also told you have an ebook to share with people as well. The Angels in the Basement that you're talking about, right? So you want to tell
exactly
them?
So. Well, that's why I call them Angels in the Basement. And in that book, it's substantial. It's an ebook, but it's substantial. It's like 45, 50 pages. I go into some depth about the angels in the basement and why they're angels. We think they're demons, but they're actually angels, right? There's no such thing as a negative emotion. There's only emotions that got bad press. We had to characterize those parts of us which weren't allowed to come out and play because the environment simply didn't allow it. Part of the method of suppression was to characterize them as bad, as sinful or evil, or as not acceptable, or you get the picture. They're very completely innocent, falsely accused of being demons. And so they got shut off. And sometimes, sadly, the things that get sent to the basement are the best parts of us. I mean, I was a natural musician. I loved music. I loved playing music. I also loved performing. I loved being on the stage. I would acting and do voices like I did in commercials and that sort of stuff. My parents hated it. Oh my God, I was supposed to be a Republican lawyer, right? And oh my God, I can't even imagine. Honor, Your Honor, no, it's all right. He's okay. He's all right. I'd let everybody off the hook. But I was completely unacceptable to my tribe. Right? The very best parts of me were completely unacceptable, caused an enormous amount of pain and trauma. And to the point by the time I was 19, I just didn't want to live anymore. I was just a complete wreck. And that's what happens. Right? And but in that book, I talk about it, and I give some exercises as how to begin to open that door and let them out. That they're not what you think they are. Right? That the belly of the whale or that dark cave is not the bad place you think it is. Right? That the dragon guarding the virgin and the gold that virgin gold is you. Right? And the dragon is simply that mechanism that you're going to have to prove yourself to get past it, to get to the real you, the pure original innocence and the treasure of your gifts, which is what all of those mythologies about the dragons and slaying, that's what they're all about. That's what they really represent. The obstacles to us coming back to ourselves, which have all been created out of this dynamic between you and the environment in which you grew up. Very powerful. And it's been understood by sages and saints forever. That's where you get stories like that. And they just keep popping up over and over and over again, because that's what they're really pointing at. It's not something out there, it's here.
Right. Totally. Okay, great. Well, for people to take advantage of the Angels in the Basement ebook and discover more about that, dive in to see what that is, what's in the basement. Go to gpwalsh.com/rockstar. That's gpwalsh.com/rockstar. And you can get that for free.
For free.
For free. All right. So GP, we're at the time of the show where I like to do a quick tune in on my guests for a minute or so.
Wonderful.
Ready to receive briefly?
I am.
Always.
Always.
Always. All right. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see who wants to come through today. All right. Well, I'm just guided to talk about is that blossom of your heart. It's a really, you truly have that blossom of that heart that's open. There is, and then also they're showing me your fire and steel. It's you got a lot of fire and steel. I don't think people would fully get that, in this interview. But you've got a lot of it. You've got but it's gotten to be so much more, I guess embodied, if that's the word we want to use. But it's so just you're trusting it to be more, so it just can operate in a more just magnetic or radiating way, I guess is the way to put it. And so that doesn't have to come out as cut your balls off or some crazy thing. So it's just really cool to see that you've largely probably quite a lot have shifted that, now in your life. That doesn't have to, that so-called monster doesn't have to come out of the basement anymore. So at least not too often. So at least that's what it shows up for me today. So that's one piece. Let's see if I get one or two more. I get this with a lot of my guests because it's part of what I'm supposed to keep reminding people of. Maybe you already do this, but they're showing me literally physically you laying hands on people. So it feels like there's a lot of healing you can bring to people, transmission through laying the physical, not just like, I do energy, but laying of your hands seems to be important. So I'll let you comment on all this in a moment, but I share the bits first. Let's see, let me get one more. Well, the encouragement is for you to go even deeper into the basement. As far as you've gone already, the indication is anyway. Oh, you know, there's still some more in there. You've done a lot, but there's still some more deep down in there, and so they're just like keep going, keep going. I just like to usually just share the three. There's so many things I could share as a channel that I am. I could go on and on, but I just wanted to share things with you. So, any comments, questions, or thoughts about what came through?
Oh no, it's beautiful. I'm looking forward to live events again.
Yeah.
To actually have contact with people, because touch is so powerful. Because it conveys that sense of safety in a very real way. The emotional nervous system, the mind part of us, the thinking element is about 3 million years old tops, right? The feeling part of us is 250 million years old. So I mean, you look at animals that don't think, and yet they communicate well. They touch, they play. That's all part of how that environment of safety gets created. So getting close, lots of hugs, laying on of hands. I like it. The fire and steel has been tempered over the years.
Yeah.
And I find it guided now by a wisdom, and I don't claim ownership to wisdom. I claim no more ownership over wisdom than the radio claims over the song that it plays. Right? It's it's just passing through. Wisdom, nobody owns wisdom. It is universally available to all. And there's, until one arrives at the totality of Buddhahood, there's always more to go, right? You'll know when to stop. You know when you don't need to go, right? If you don't know yet, keep going.
Am I done? Yeah, you're not done.
Are you done? If you have to ask, no, you're not done.
Right. I've learned that along the way.
Yeah.
Like, you go on these retreats, or you do this or that, and all. You're like, oh, I'm so connected. Everything's beautiful. I love my brothers and sisters. I could walk for weeks and weeks in that feeling, and then all of a sudden something it starts creeping up again.
Hi. My Beetlejuice face. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I guess I'm done.
No, you're done. You're only done when you're done. And so just assume you're not, and then you can be pleasantly surprised. It's just the safe and humble way to go about it, because you just don't know. You just don't know when that button is going to get pushed, that you were simply not in the circumstance where it was ever pushed before, and you thought everything was okay, right?
Right.
But if the training is there, if you've learned how to truly be present with whatever happens, the button can be pushed, the reaction can take place, but it won't have any place to land and grab onto you.
Right.
You'll watch it.
I mean,
I've heard that through
from others too, right? Some of my teachers that whatever level they're Buddhas or whatever. I don't know, but I don't know what to call it, but they're very high, very embodied, and they say, well, computers piss me off sometimes, but it's okay. Like things like that.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. For me, it's when I get on one of those answering systems where I'm gone through like 9 places now, and I still can't talk to a human.
Right.
about 7 or 8. It's like, Yeah, I mean, okay. Yeah, all right. Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah,
showing me
yeah.
that. The key, it's going to happen to everybody, right? It's not a big deal. If you make a story out of it, if you make it, oh my
Right.
God, I shouldn't be feeling that. Now all of a sudden you're saddled with it. It's like, I'm spiritual, right? I shouldn't be
Oh
feeling
my
it.
God, I thought I made it, right?
That's right.
I'm
Ramana
sending it.
Maharshi, one of the greatest sages of all times, used to get pissed off at his followers every now and then. Right?
Yeah.
It just doesn't stick, right? It happens, it's gone, right? That's the key, you
But
know?
I've even said to myself, is it just doesn't, I can't stay around very long anymore. Not to like,
Ah, you can't hold on to it. I've removed all the Velcro. There's nothing, there's no place for it to stick, right? But I'm not going to be, I have no control over that. I can't stop what's going to come up.
right, exactly. Straight, yeah.
And I don't want to. That's not what I'm here about. As a matter of fact, I like it when it comes up. Oh, wonderful. A new opportunity to deepen the practice, to deepen my presence. Right. And then when I find something that does want to latch on and react, and I go, oh, look at that. That's where I need to put it. Thank you. Thank you.
Right.
The whole, everything becomes your guru.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Only everything. Okay, so just start to wrap things up a little bit here. If people are curious, more curious about also checking me out, you can go to yoursacredpurpose.com, and there's opportunities to get meditate, make money, all that stuff. Just it is about connecting, getting connected up so that you can, hear your true self and all that stuff, and see what wants to actually drop in rather than being in your head. So check that out at yoursacredpurpose.com, and there's opportunity to apply for energy scanning with me as well. So you can tune in your purpose, your business, your sales, and all that stuff that I work with, and help you in that way. So you can check it out again at yoursacredpurpose.com. If you would love to check it out on Facebook, go to Rock Your Sacred Purpose Facebook group. I do Facebook Lives every Monday at 3 p.m. Central, where I do channeling and energy scanning and share, I guess, with you there as well. All right, so GP, I'm going to give you the last word. What's any last bits of wisdom or anything else you'd like to share?
You're not broken. You really aren't. Puzzle over that. I at first I go, I don't look at all of the things that have been going on, because all of those are going on because your whole energy system functioned perfectly. If it didn't, you wouldn't be here to listen to us. You'd be dead. It did what it had to do at the time. And so everything is functioning exactly the way it's supposed to. As you step into consciousness, what happens is you come back into the center of it, so that it now begins to not just serve the interests of the survival of the body and system, but it begins to serve its real purpose, which is to give expression and form to you who are beyond form.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Amen. So it is. All right. Beautiful. All right. Thank you, GP. This has been a great, wonderful time together with you. And I so enjoyed it. And I've gained a lot of confirmation and understanding myself from it. And I'm sure our audience is also soaking it in big time. So I'm grateful for that. And so grateful for our audience listening as well. As I always say, keep on tuning in. We'll keep on rocking it here at Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Till next time, everyone. Goodbye for now.
For listening to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Stay tuned for our next upcoming new episodes each Wednesday and Saturday. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review to help us to serve you best. As a reminder, you can get your free Meditate and Make Money meditation at www.yoursacredpurpose.com to rock your sacred purpose. Goodbye for now, everybody.